Once upon a time, in a small-town diner that felt like it was plucked right out of a classic movie, a story unfolded that would become a local legend. It was a typical Tuesday morning. The air hummed with the clatter of cutlery, the gentle sizzle of bacon on the griddle, and the low murmur of conversations. Our story centers on a young, visibly pregnant woman named Sarah. She was a waitress at the Corner Nook, known for her radiant smile and the kind of warmth that made everyone feel at home. Sarah was saving every penny for her baby, working tirelessly but always with a cheerful heart. On this particular morning, the diner's bell jingled, announcing the arrival of a man who seemed to carry a storm cloud with him. His name was Victor. Victor was a man whose wealth was matched only by his arrogance. He believed his money gave him a pass to treat everyone else as if they were beneath him. He sat down at a booth, scowling at the menu as if it had personally offended him. Sarah approached his table, her usual bright smile in place. "Good morning, sir. What can I get for you today?" she asked, her voice full of genuine cheer. Victor didn't even look up. He just grunted, "Coffee, black, and be quick about it." Sarah, unfazed by his rudeness, quickly fetched a steaming mug of coffee and placed it gently on his table. "Here you go, sir. Let me know when you're ready to order." Victor took a sip, then slammed the mug down, splashing hot coffee onto the table. "This is lukewarm. Are you trying to serve me dishwater? Get me a fresh hot cup, now." His voice boomed through the diner, causing a few heads to turn. Sarah, though taken aback, maintained her composure. "Of course, sir. I am so sorry about that. I'll get you a fresh pot right away." She returned moments later with a new, steaming pot of coffee. As she carefully poured it into his cup, her hand trembled slightly, and a tiny droplet spilled onto the saucer. It was a minuscule mistake, one most people wouldn't even notice, but for Victor it was an unforgivable offense. His face contorted with rage. "Are you incompetent?" he roared, standing up so abruptly that his chair screeched against the floor. "First the cold coffee, now this. You can't do anything right." Sarah's eyes welled with tears. I'm so sorry, sir. It was an accident." But Victor was beyond reason. In a shocking display of cruelty, he raised his hand and slapped Sarah across the face. The sound echoed through the now silent diner. A collective gasp went through the room. Sarah stumbled back, her hand flying to her cheek, a look of pure shock and pain on her face. Her other hand instinctively went to protect her pregnant belly. The diner's owner, a kind old man named Mr. Henderson, rushed over. "Victor, that's enough! Get out of my diner! You're not welcome here!" Victor just sneered, tossing a few bills onto the table. "Keep the change. Maybe you can use it to hire staff who aren't completely useless." With that, he stormed out, leaving a stunned and silent diner in his wake. Mr. Henderson helped Sarah to a chair, his face a mixture of anger and concern. "Are you all right, my dear? I'm calling the police." Sarah, still shaking, just nodded, tears streaming down her face. The other patrons surrounded her, offering words of comfort and support. But the injustice of it all hung heavy in the air. Now, what Victor didn't know was that the Corner Nook was more than just a diner. It was a hub, a meeting point for all sorts of people. And on Tuesdays, it was the regular breakfast spot for a local group that, let's just say, you didn't want to cross. They weren't your typical customers. They were members of a well-known motorcycle club. Big, bearded men with leather jackets adorned with the club's distinctive patch. They were rough around the edges, sure, but they had a strict code of honor. And at the top of their list of unwritten rules was a fierce, unwavering respect for women and children. They considered themselves protectors of the community in their own way. About an hour after Victor had left, the familiar roar of motorcycles filled the street outside. The diner door swung open, and in walked a dozen members of the Hells Angels. Their leader, a mountain of a man named Frank, but known to everyone as Bear, led the way. He had a long, graying beard and eyes that had seen more than most. He and his crew were regulars. They loved Sarah. She always remembered their orders. treated them with kindness, and never judged them for their appearance. To them, she was like a little sister. They noticed the somber mood in the diner immediately. The usual cheerful buzz was gone. Then Bear saw Sarah sitting in the corner, her face red and swollen where Victor had struck her. His friendly expression vanished, replaced by a cold, hard glare. "What happened?" he asked, his voice a low rumble that commanded attention. Mr. Henderson recounted the entire incident, his voice trembling with lingering anger. He told them how Victor had berated and then struck the pregnant woman over a spilled drop of coffee. As he spoke, the faces of the bikers grew darker and darker. An unspoken understanding passed between them. An act of disrespect against one of their own, especially a defenseless pregnant woman, was an act against all of them. Bear turned to his men. "Find him," he said. It was a simple command, but it carried the weight of an iron promise. They didn't need any more details. In a small town, a man like Victor, with his flashy car and arrogant attitude, wasn't hard to track down. Within minutes, the bikers were back on their motorcycles, the engines roaring to life with a sense of purpose. They found Victor at the town's most expensive hotel, bragging to the concierge about how he'd put some clumsy waitress in her place. He was laughing when the glass doors of the lobby swung open and the formidable group of bikers walked in. The laughter died in his throat. His face went pale as he saw Bear and his crew approaching, their expressions grim and determined. They surrounded him. Victor, who had been so brave in front of a pregnant woman, was now trembling like a leaf. "What do you want?" he stammered, his voice barely a whisper. Bear stepped forward, his immense presence seeming to suck all the air out of the lobby. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "We heard you had a problem with the service at the corner nook," Bear said, his voice dangerously calm. "We heard you felt the need to raise your hand to a young lady who's carrying a child." Victor started to bluster. "She was incompetent. She spilled." Bear cut him off. "We're not here to discuss the coffee," he said, taking another step closer. "We're here to deliver a lesson in respect. A lesson you clearly never learned." The bikers formed a tight circle around Victor, blocking him from view. What happened next, no one in the lobby saw clearly. There were no loud noises, no overt brawl, but when the bikers parted ways a few minutes later, Victor was on the floor, groaning. He wasn't seriously injured, but his pride was in tatters and his expensive suit was a mess. Bear leaned down, his face inches from Victor's. "You will go back to that diner. You will get on your knees and you will apologize to that young woman. Then you will give her a tip that will cover her lost wages for the next year, and after that, you will leave this town and you will never, ever come back. Do you understand me?" Terrified, Victor could only nod frantically. The bikers watched as he stumbled to his feet and scurried out of the hotel. They followed him back to the diner. The patrons who were still there watched in disbelief as Victor, the arrogant bully from an hour ago, walked in, fell to his knees in front of Sarah, and delivered the most sincere, fear-induced apology she had ever heard. He then handed her a thick envelope of cash before practically running out of the diner and out of their town for good. The diner erupted in applause. Sarah, overwhelmed, looked at Bear and his men with tears in her eyes, but this time, they were tears of gratitude. Bear just gave her a gentle nod and a small smile. "No one messes with our family, little sister," he said softly. The story teaches us a profound lesson. True strength isn't about how much power or money you have, or how you can intimidate those you see as weaker. True strength lies in kindness, in respect, and in the courage to stand up for what is right. It's about protecting the vulnerable and creating a community where everyone feels safe and valued. Victor's arrogance was his downfall, while the biker's code of honor, often misunderstood, proved to be a force for true justice. And that disrespect, especially towards the vulnerable, can bring about consequences from the most unexpected of places.